Hi, Joe. And if anybody's here to speak on a matter, please sign in. We're going to be starting in a few minutes. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to welcome you here tonight to the public hearing on ordinance on July 13th, 5 o'clock. Madam Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Chairman Narducci,
Here.
Vice Chairwoman Castillo. Present. Councilwoman Harris. Present. Councilor Miller. Present. Councilman Espinal is absent. You have 4 present and 1 absent. You have a quorum.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All right, we're going to start with item number 1. Bobby Azar. Yes. First, Bobby, before you start, Madam Clerk, can you please read item number 1 into the record?
Item number 1 is a petition from Bethany Martone and Daniel Nevedo requesting a zone change for the property located on Assessor's Plat 97, Lot 960, 828 Charles Street from R2 to C3. And Mr. Chairman, we do have.
Can I get a motion to accept Exhibit A? Motion made by Councilwoman Castillo, seconded by Councilwoman Harris. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. With that being said, Bobby, you got.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Robert Azar with the Department of Planning and Development. This petition is to change the zoning of a single lot on Charles Street, 828 Charles Street, from residential 2-family to C3, which is a commercial zone. And the purpose of this is twofold: to recognize the fact that this is already a mixed-use property that's not permitted to exist in the R2 zone. It's already what we would call non-conforming. So changing the zoning would be a best practice to conform to what exists on the property. Also, the petitioners have indicated that they wish to add some development to this property to expand the mixed use of the property. They want to add housing, which the City Plan Commission found to be an important goal that's recognized by the comprehensive plan. This area, this property is directly adjacent to a C3 zone. So this would simply be moving the zone line by 1 lot. So with that, the City Plan Commission made a recommendation for you to approve this, finding it consistent with the city's comprehensive plan and with the purposes of zoning.
Thank you, Bob. Do we have anybody here that would like to speak for or against? Thank you, Sarge. Bethany, would you approach the mic and just state your name and your address for the record, please?
Martone, 828 Charles Street, Providence, Rhode Island.
It's all yours.
I agree with everything he said. We want to do more affordable housing, and we're doing a condo development.
And then with that being said, what I'd like to add, as all of you know, this is in my ward. Bethany just purchased the property next door to where this lot is, and they've gone through the whole building. Matter of fact, when I toured the inside, it was totally amazing the way you guys did the upstairs.
Thank you.
I mean, swivel staircases, and it was absolutely beautiful. So I'm looking forward to this project moving forward myself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 2, once again, Bobby. Yeah. Madam Clerk, would you please read item number 2 into the record?
Item number 2 is a petition from Dylan Conley Esquire on behalf of Brian Weinstein and Bass Realty Company LLC, requesting a zone change for the property located on Assessor's Plat 66, Lot 106, 159 River Avenue from R3 to C1 with restrictions as follows. Residential uses only, limited to 2-family, 3-family, or multifamily dwellings. Mr. Chairman, we do have we have CPC letter as a
Can I have a motion to accept as Exhibit 2A, please? Motion made by Councilman Castillo. Seconded by, Councilwoman Harris. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it.
Mr. Chairman, we have 3 letters. B.
Motion to accept as Exhibit 2B by Councilman Castillo, seconded by Councilwoman Harris. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. If anybody's just getting here and you need to sign in, you need to see the city sergeant and he'll allow you to sign in. Bobby?
Okay, this is another similar zoning petition where you have a building that is currently non-conforming to the zoning district. This is in a 3-family zone, yet this is a very large multifamily building containing 12 units. The petition here is to change the zoning to C1, but with the restrictions noted, it would, for all practical purposes, just allow for multifamily dwelling because the restrictions would not allow for commercial uses. And the reason why the petitioner has filed this is because they have surplus space within the building in the basement and in the attic, and they are looking to expand the total number of dwelling units to 24. The City Plan Commission evaluated this property, found that it was very close to a C1 zone along Chalkstone Avenue. This property is just south of Chalkstone Avenue. And they found that it has a ample size lot with a significant number of parking spaces. They found that this change would be consistent with the comprehensive plans strategies for improving and adding housing to the city's stock, and therefore recommend approval of this, finding it consistent with the comprehensive plan and with the purposes of zoning.
Bob, I quick question. You said basement and attic space.
That's correct. My understanding is that there's space in the basement, and that there's currently an attic, and the proposal would be to add some roof dormers to expand the floor area of the attic space.
Thank you. Sarge, would you please bring up the list for this matter, please? Thank you. First, we're going to ask Councilor Conley.
Honorable members of the City Council, my name is Dylan Conley. I'm here on behalf of the applicant. The applicant is present. The architect is present. We really want to make ourselves available to answer any questions or concerns. Otherwise, the presentation by Mr. Azar is directly on point. If there's no questions from this committee, I would just yield the rest of my time. And if there were objections that were raised, I did want to reiterate that we are available to you.
Thank you. Councilwoman Miller.
Thank you. So there's some concerns about the current property, seeing from neighbors about trash and other, just like neighborhood upkeep. Can you or your client speak to that?
I can. So while we were actually walking the space to talk about this proposal generally, A neighbor saw us and said that they had an issue with how the dumpster was managed. We have new fencing put in place that is done and complete. I do have a video of that I can submit. And generally speaking, the upkeep of the property is going to improve as a result of this. We would be investing a substantial amount of money into the building, trying to take the old school building and make it more suitable and sustainable over the long run.
You, Mr. Conley, one more question. Is it, so you're looking to move it from 12 to 24 units?
That's correct.
How many, like, what are the specs on those units? Like,
So the architectural presentation that we gave to the CPC, those units are proposed 4 studios, 6 1-beds and 2 2-beds, 2 bath units. So that brings us from the 12 to the 24. They're roughly split between the larger units on the basement, which are reflective of the units on floors 1 through 3, and then smaller units on the 4th floor. Be a 4-story walk up is the general intention right now. We think smaller units and, lowercase a affordable. It's market rate housing, but we think there'll be smaller walk up units. So we do think they'll be in a price range that's effective. Thank you.
And the good thing is if we have any issues, we know where Dylan is.
Yes, most likely in front of you.
Kevin Diamond. Kevin, can you just state your name and your position, your address for the record, please?
Yes. Hi, good evening. My name is Kevin Diamond, Principal Architect of Providence Architecture.
Thank you.
Thanks. Does everybody have the presentation? If not, I have copies I can hand out if you'd like. That'd be helpful. Okay.
You can just give it to the clerk, please. This would be 2C, right?
I have one more. Yeah.
Can I have a motion to accept as Exhibit 2C, please? Motion made by Councilman Costello. Seconded by Councilor Miller. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. You can go ahead, Kevin.
Excellent. So I'll keep this brief. I think Mr. Azar and Mr. Conley described this project really well in terms of its program. Overall, the overarching goal here is to take a building that is rather massive in its size, especially given its location and its current zoning, and to zone it to more adequately match the massing. So it is appropriately zoned, and this building could fill out its full potential. What's important to note about the design of our proposal here is there's no increase to the footprint. There's no increase to its height. It's just literally filling out space. The whole proposal is essentially filling out space that's already there, that's woefully underutilized. So essentially trying to meet the needs of our current housing needs here in Providence with footprint, massing, and space that's already here, already built, just not being used. So essentially the structure, we're utilizing our existing staircases, we're utilizing our existing walls, just really trying to make this pick up to serve its full potential. And I can answer any specific questions about unit typology, unit design, unit size. I guess another thing to mention here is, and I think it's a merit of the project's proposal, is that there is a variety of things that would be existing in that building. You don't open the front door and just have sort of a homogeneous case of just repetitive units that are all the same. If this proposal goes through, you would have a truly unique and diverse body of units, everything ranging from studios on up in different arrangements, which I think would really do a lot with drawing different types of folks to come live here, different types of tenants, cross-pollination of different types of, folks coming and going, which I think is a really good thing to have.
Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you.
You can be seated.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Good job. Teresa Shea. And when you come up, if you would just state your name and your address for the record, please. Good evening.
My name is Therese Shea. I'm a longtime resident of 48 Berkeley Street. I've lived there for 36 years. I've raised my family there. I have 3 sons. I'm a dedicated person to my neighborhood. I like to keep it clean. This particular property, once upon a time, it was beautiful. It had beautiful mimosa trees in front of it. It was always kept up. But in the last, I'd say 7, 8, 9 years, the property is constantly strewn with garbage. Miraculously, when they filed this, they cleaned up the yard and they trimmed the bushes. It's funny how those things happen. But my objection to this, according to what was stated here, the zoning was be changing to C1, which says neighborhood store when I look it up. Isn't that correct? I'm sorry?
We can answer that. Bob, do you have an answer for that?
Okay, well,
He'll-
when I
He'll
look-
answer it for you.
oh, he will answer that. Thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
So the C1 zone is a commercial zone that normally would allow for a mix of commercial and residential. In this case, there would be a restriction on the zoning change that would limit this zoning only to housing. So the building could only be used as an apartment building.
So is that restriction?
That restriction is permanent on, it is noted on the zoning map itself. So it's permanent unless at some point in the future, the city council decides to change it.
The owners of the property had been decent neighbors, kept up their property. I would not have an objection to them not, they say that the footprint of the building is not going to change. I don't think they have enough parking in the first place, but my objection still lies in the fact that they've been a lousy neighbor. They're not good to the people who live around them. I have taken my own money, had neighborhood cleanups, gotten everything donated. Tommy's Pizza used to give me pizza. I get donuts from Dunkin' Donuts. I invite everybody. I pay for a DJ like at the end of the thing to have a party in the neighborhood. I'm a good neighbor and I want good neighbors. That's what I want. Thank you.
No, thank you for that. If we can get more people to clean up just their portion of the neighborhood, that'd be a great thing. No one else to speak on this matter. Madam Clerk, would you please read item number 3 into the record?
Item number 3 is a petition from Jose Sanchez requesting a zone change for the property located on Assessor's Plat 45, Lot 758, 48 Marlborough Avenue from R3 to C1. Mr. Chair, there is a CPC letter to enter into the record.
I remember that time. Can I have a motion to accept as Exhibit 3A for the record, please? Motion made by Councilman Castillo, seconded by Council Miller. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Mr. Azar.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This petition is to change the zoning for a house lot that's one lot off of Broad Street at 48 Marlborough Ave. The property is owned by the same owners of the building adjacent that fronts on Broad Street that many of you will know as the Sanchez Market. Happy to say that the market is thriving, and they are looking to expand by building a small addition towards the Marlborough side of the property. Right now in the C1 zone, there is a restriction on how far a building has to be set back from a residential zone. Based on the current zoning of 48 Marlborough Ave, this expansion would not be allowed to happen. So with this zoning change, which would move the zone line just 30 or 40 feet to the east, that would allow for the expansion of the Sanchez Market. And this, where this zoning line is proposed to be is consistent with the depth of the zoning line in many parts of Broad Street in this area. So given that, the City Plan Commission found this to be an appropriate zoning change consistent with the comprehensive plan and the purposes of zoning, and they are recommending that you approve it.
Thank you, Bobby. Sarge, can we get the list? Thank you. Joanna Carrera. I just had a nice conversation with you, showed you my grandkids and everything.
Yes.
Can you please state your name and your address for the record, please?
Yes, my name is Joanna Carrera. I live at 1 Rosemary Street in Cranston. I'm actually here to represent Jose Sanchez. He's not here himself. As Mr. Azar mentioned, basically all that they're looking to do right now is expand the business so that it's a profitable business doing well for the neighborhood. And by allowing this change, it's definitely just going to allow the store to be bigger and more roomy and stuff like that. So if you guys have any questions, that's why I'm here.
Councilman Harris.
Yes, thank you for being here. Can I ask you, how long have the Sanchez Market been in business? I know when I was younger, they were on Broad Street. Is that the same family?
It's the same family.
All those years? How long?
To be honest with you, I'm not sure how long, but I know they've been in business for a long, long time.
Maybe over 30 years or so, right?
Yeah,
Councilman?
exactly. And they own the house that's right next door. It's both
Right.
Same. Mhm.
Yeah, so it's been a long time, you
Yes.
know, and they expanded. It's
Yeah,
nice to
and
hear.
neighborhood loves it. Everybody comes
Right.
in happy all the time. So.
Yeah, I know that. That's in my neighborhood. That's why I have to say.
Oh,
that's-
great. That's probably where I've seen you.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you, Councilman. I just wanted to know how long, you know, is it the same family? So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Harris. Thank you. Doo-doo-doo. Madam Chair, would you please read item number 4 into the record?
Item number 4 is a petition from John J. Garrahy Esquire, John J. Garrahy Law LLC, 2088 Broad Street, Cranston, Rhode Island, 02905, dated April 12, 2022, requesting a zone change for the property located on Assessor's Plat 115, lots 3 and 13, 348 and 383 Killingley Street from R1 to R3. There are no exhibits for this matter.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Bobby?
Okay. Mr. Chair, did you receive a City Plan Commission in recommendation? And
It
it's-
is attached to the petition.
It's part of the record? Okay,
Yes.
fantastic, thank you. So as you can see in that recommendation, this is a petition for 2 lots that are very large, and they're located in the single-family zone. But you know, as you can tell, there's there's a pattern here that we have an awful lot of non-conforming uses throughout the city. And what we try to do when we have the opportunity is to bring the zoning into conformance with what's on the ground. And that would be the case here. We have two lots. They both have houses that are non-conforming. One has a 3-family dwelling and one has a 2-family dwelling. Given that there is a lot of surplus land here with the ability for a subdivision to happen, the zoning would need to change. And this is an area that while it's zoned R1, there's actually probably more non-conforming uses in this area than conforming uses. It's also directly adjacent to a heavy commercial C3 zone. So in discussing this with the applicant's representative, the original petition was seeking to, the original proposal was seeking to rezone this to commercial. We thought that R3 would be a more appropriate zoning district given what's around it. And so it would allow for the lots to be subdivided. It would also bring the properties into conformance with zoning, bring zoning in line with what exists on the ground. So the City Plan Commission found that this would be consistent with the future land use of this comprehensive plan and also with objective H2, which encourages developing new housing. So with that, they made a recommendation to the council to approve this zoning change.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, do you have a newbie with you?
I do.
Would you like to come up and
yeah.
state your name and your position?
Absolutely. Come on up, Lev.
Thank you. I learned that newbie word from NCIS, so.
My name is Lev Simon. I work as a planning technician for the city of Providence.
Position, I'm sorry.
Planning technician.
Very good. Welcome aboard and thank you.
Thank you.
Pay attention to Bob Azar and you'll do fine.
I hope to.
Thank you. Thank you, Bob.
Happy to say that Lev is a Rhode Island native, just graduated from Brown University, and we're very excited that we were able to keep him in the city. He has a great love of Providence and all things planning, and we're really thrilled that he came on the team.
Well, welcome aboard. Good luck. So that brings us to item number 4. Sarge, can we have the? No, we didn't. You? Oh, jeez. Mr. Gary. And I'm sorry, I actually called you Joe earlier, huh? Someday I'll get used to that.
Mr. Chairman, I don't take offense to that at all.
His father was one of the best men and one of the best governors this state ever seen.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that.
Yep.
For the record, John Garrahy on behalf of the applicant. Mr. Azar gave an excellent explanation as to what was happening here. 2 large pieces of land, difficult to subdivide and to make that other land available because of the R1 zoning. So the R3 zoning allows for the existing non-conforming developments to become conforming and to allow for subdivision of the property. It's in a very interesting area, Killingly Street, Hartford Avenue. There's commercial, the town line of Johnston. There's a multifamily right across the town line. So it's a very mixed use and very difficult to characterize from a zoning perspective. So I thank the planning department for working with us in order to accomplish this goal. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, sir. We have Sonia, is that Nanos? Will you approach, please, and just state your name and your address for the record? Hi.
Hi, my name is Sonia Nance. My address is 364 Killingly Street in Providence. Oh, I'm whirling. I received this in the mail, and then I came and I spoke to someone, and I also spoke to the attorney regarding the land division. My only concern is the traffic, the unkept woods in the back, like what's in there. How would that kind of affect us who are the neighbors who are living there? The rebuilding and the division of the property itself. If they're dividing this property up, one property into three, and they're keeping the main house basically on one property, but they're able to sell the other two properties or subdivision, at what point is the traffic going to be too much? Is the building going to be too much? Is the inconvenience to the neighborhood and the neighbors going to be too much? I do understand that it is next to commercial, which is the bank and the markets and things like that. But what about us who were already there? It's a disruption of our household and our peace. I work in the medical field. My days start at 3:30 in the morning sometimes, 5 or 7. I have different and various shifts. So when it starts the building, how does that affect me as a neighbor? Do I have to keep worrying about that, about the noise? Secondly, as far as the addresses, the 348 and 383, I think it's a 348. There's been a lot of police calls. There's a lot of disruption with the occupants. It's not kept. It's a lot. And those properties, it's not like it's a peaceful property. Both of them, they're not at all. You can see the police going over there at least to break up differences. You see them regularly. And I'm just worried about if you break that up, now what else do we get? And there's different rooming houses and different things like that. The landlords now at this time, they don't actually, they come on the first, if that's a nice thing to say. They come in, they collect the rent. So what happens to the properties now when these properties, we just have to sit there and see what else they're gonna build there? It takes away from our peace. I know a lot of people from 348 or a lot of people from Killingly Street itself, I'm sorry, didn't show up, but I don't think they really understood the importance of showing up. Because had I not gone down and collected the paperwork and spoke to the attorney, I wouldn't have understood and I wouldn't have been able to do my research. And the research that I'm finding is that I'm not gonna have a peace. Profitable for them, but at what cost is my peace? I'm not making a profit from this. They're taking away from my home life, my peace, my coming home from being, dealing with my patients and doing the things that I need to do on a regular basis and being able to be comfortable, to now breaking up this property into 3 different properties, basically for sale. It's not even to kind of build for more family or things like that, like we used to do. It's nothing like that. It's basically strictly profit. Why should I have to suffer for somebody else's gain in their pockets? And that's exactly what's going to happen. One property was purchased for hundreds of thousands of dollars. So if you have that one property for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and then you break it up into 3 different properties, so now you're getting almost $1 million or so to sell this land for subdivision or more housing. Yes, it's going to help, but all that land going back there, it's going to help you. It's not going to help us. It's not at a peace. And then people are going to start coming for our properties as well. Where's our peace? It's not fair. I don't believe it's fair. I don't believe that it's profitable for us. And like I said, just to be able to come home and to relax. And I think that is strictly about bank and money. And it's unfortunate, but they don't even, the landlords don't even live there. They're not even around there. So it's easy to live in another city and disrupt where I live. And it's unfair. It's not okay. So I don't know what else I'm supposed to say. I don't know if I'm handling this correctly. I'm saying the right things, but I'm totally against it. You're also going to call Jeff Speaks, but I'm also speaking for him. He's over there. And we live at 364 Killingly Street. So I've been nominated to speak for us. So I'm speaking for us.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Jeff, how you been? Good. Bobby, the only part of that, if you can answer her concern with the land itself.
Well, so in the city of Providence, in the residential zoning districts, if you want to subdivide land, you need to have at least 5,000 square feet of lot area and at least 50 feet of frontage. That's a pretty standard lot in the city. We have many lots that are much smaller than that, and we have lots that are much bigger than that, but that's the standard, and that's what zoning calls for. And in this case, if you have excess of 5,000 square feet, it's our position that you should be able to create a subdivision such that you meet the standard. So if you have 15,000 square feet, it's our position that you should be able to create 3 lots. And if you go up and down Killingly Street, you'll find that there are many lots roughly in that size. So to the extent that they would be able to create new lots for development, we would support that, and we would even encourage it, given the fact that we are in such a housing crunch. With respect to traffic generation, houses don't generate a whole lot of traffic. It's relatively minimal. At worst case scenario, we could see 2 new houses on each of these lots for a total of 4 new houses. In my opinion, that's not terribly significant, and it won't generate significant amounts of traffic. There are multifamily developments in the vicinity. Just to the south of this, there's a larger multifamily development. Killingly is a well-traveled road, so I feel that this is reasonable. I certainly hear the neighbors' objections, and if there are problems with behavior of tenants, I think that's something to consider, and I think that's something that Mr. Garrahy should talk to his client about. And certainly, if he's asking for something from the council, that could be germane. If that's a real problem in the neighborhood.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, would you please read item number 5 into the record?
Item number 5 is a petition from Nicholas J. Heeman Esquire, Darrow Everett LLP, 1 Turk's Head Place, Suite 1200, Providence, Rhode Island, 02903, requesting to change the zoning ordinance of the city of Providence by changing the text of section 1907 E2E, emergency demolition. Mr. Chair, we have 2 exhibits. Well, we have a substitution.
Okay, so if I, excuse me, can get a motion to accept this as Exhibit 5A. Motion made by Councilor Miller, seconded by Councilman Castillo. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. I have a motion to accept as Exhibit 5B, please. Motion made by Councilman Castillo, seconded by Councilor Miller. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Bob Azar.
Okay, this is unusual for this evening. This is the only zoning amendment where you're not changing the map. This would be a change to the text of the zoning ordinance. And this comes about from a very odd circumstance where where the building official declared that a parking structure was unsafe and that it should be demolished because it was a public safety emergency. This bypassed the rules that apply in downtown. I apologize if I didn't mention that. This parking structure was in downtown. The rules in downtown require any demolition to be reviewed by the Downtown Design Review Committee. But when the building official orders a structure demolished, it would bypass that. Furthermore, the property owner wished to use the land that formerly had the parking structure on it for a surface parking lot. The zoning ordinance does not allow surface parking lots in downtown, not even as an interim use. So the property owner was in a pickle. He was not able to use the property in the manner that he wished. He and the city were at somewhat of an impasse. There were some discussions among lawyers, and my understanding is that an agreement that was reached between the solicitor and the property owner was that this discrete amendment to the text of the ordinance would be filed such that in this particular case, this land could be used as a parking lot. Basically, it says if a parking structure is ordered demolished by the building official because of a public safety emergency, the land can be used as a parking lot. The City Plan Commission was not thrilled about this. Their recommendation was actually to deny this, finding it inconsistent with the comprehensive plan. However, they suggest that if you were inclined to approve it, they would want to see some change in the language. As noted in our letter, they want to be clear that it would be a principal use parking structure and that it is the sole use of the property. So that was their recommendation, to deny, but if you were to approve, to adopt this substitute language. Furthermore, I understand that there have been some discussions between the city solicitor's office and the attorney for the applicant about some further language that would even more tightly restrict this amendment, such that it would it would apply only during a certain period of time corresponding roughly with the pandemic, so that this condition would be the only place where this could happen. I think I and the City Plan Commission were concerned that somehow developers would use this language to find a loophole to start demolishing other buildings in downtown. But I have to give credit to Solicitor Dinnerman. I think the sub-A language that's been proposed would be very tight and would guarantee that we wouldn't see this come up again. We wouldn't be legalizing some unforeseen circumstance that we can't possibly imagine. So my personal opinion is that if you were to adopt this sub-A language, I would be fine with it. And just a reminder that if you are inclined to adopt the sub-A language, you need to do that in this hearing before you close the hearing.
Thank you, Bob. Sergeant, can you bring up the list? At this time, though, before we go on, I'd like to have the city solicitor come up and explain your substitution. Just state your name and your position for the record, please.
Thank you. Council members, Lisa Dinnerman, Senior Assistant City Solicitor. I'm not endorsing, I'm not saying, yes, you should or should not. However, in order to make this palatable, I worked with Mr. Heeman, not knowing about the prior CPC hearing and or recommendation. But there were several other parking lots downtown that this might have affected, and that we did not want this to affect. And we certainly did not want to encourage any other owners of parking structures to allow their parking structures to deteriorate, so that the director would then order it demolished, and it would have to
And it would, and then they get to have the surface parking lot they want, since the comprehensive plan and the CPC have very clear goals of no surface parking downtown. And we have enough violations as it is. So I understand that this happened during the COVID pandemic. I don't know if it was possible for the director to get the team together, or if it wasn't, I don't have the facts. But my thought was that since this happened during the pandemic, if we made that narrow exception to just those that were ordered demolished during that period of time, which I understand is only this one, we would not be facing any other challenges. And that's the reason for the wording that I worked out with Mr. Heemand. I would note that I think Mr. Heemand added an EG in there after he and I spoke. That should be IE. They're both Latin terms, but EG means, for example, during this period of time, and it should say IE, which means which is during this period of time. So I would move to substitute IE for EG if Mr. Heemand is willing to do that. Giving a thumbs up, but I'm sure he can speak for himself. Do you have any other questions of me?
That'll be it, solicitor. Thank you. To accept it. To accept. All right, at this time, we're going to accept the, a motion to accept the sub-A amendment to item number 5B, exhibit number 5B. Right? All right, we're going to make a motion to accept item number 5B with, as sub-A, with the amendment of EG to IE. Motion made by Councilman Castillo, seconded by Councilor Miller. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Attorney Heeman, just state your name and your position for the record, please, Nick.
Sure. Mr. Chairman, Attorney Nicholas Heeman from Darrow Everett on behalf of Chapel Parking LLC. And while I went to classical high school, clearly I didn't take Latin at classical high school, so. So just a little bit of context to this. This property has been a principal use for parking since 1954. An emergency demo permit was applied for by an employee. Chapel Parking is part of Paolino Properties. So an employee of Paolino Properties that's in charge of maintaining and the structures that they own, they've been having ongoing issues with this structure. I went and pulled an emergency demo permit, it got approved, and they knocked it down. Cost about $70,000 to demo the parking lot. Several months later, there was an inquiry made as to what was going to happen with the parking. And they said, well, we're just going to leave it the way it is. And they said, well, you would have had to go to the DDRC. You would have had to present what you were going to replace it with before you knocked it down. It would cost over $1 million to put the structure that was knocked down back there. Additionally, this property is located across from Beneficent Church. And I used to park at Beneficent Church every day. And I always thought it was a surface lot, because if you looked at the property, it was a concrete on level with Weybosset Street parking lot. You would never know that there was a parking underneath it unless you cut down the alley of Chapel Street behind the federal building there. And they also happen to own the lot next to this, which is an existing surface lot. So because of all that, we filed a declaratory judgment complaint in Superior Court. And this zone change is the settlement. We also sued the city for negligence in issuing the permit, because if they had known they were going to have to put it, they would have just closed it off and not allowed anyone to access it rather than knock it down to build it. Obviously, the long-term goal for a lot of this size would be to have a building on it eventually. But the right circumstances for that have to come along. So it was the solicitor's office that proposed the original language for the zone change, and our agreement to settle the case with no money, no admissions or anything like that, to dismiss it, was to bear the expense of going through the process to request that the council change the zoning. We have incorporated through the substitute both the recommendations of the Plan Commission to make this only to properties that were principally used as parking structures. In the CPC hearing, people were concerned, well, what if you had a, for instance, I believe 78 Fountain Street has parking and then apartments above it. Well, we don't want you to knock down those buildings and just use it as surface parking. Clearly not the intent. So we've incorporated the changes that they've requested. And then Attorney Dinnerman had made the suggestion of limiting it to emergency orders that were emergency demo permits issued during the COVID pandemic through the dates that we've included in the substitute, to really make this a narrow issue with the intent of resolving the dispute between my client and the city. A part of that also is, we filed this case over a year ago. We stayed the litigation pursuant to a memorandum of understanding with the city. So in addition to this aspect of it, the lot that my client has next door to it, and really what it appears is, now it appears as one surface lot versus the two separate parking lots. We agreed not only to update the drainage and the landscaping on this lot that's before you, but we also agreed to address the lot next door to it. To the naked eye, it looks like one piece of property anyways, so we're incorporating the landscaping and such on that lot as well. And those, I believe some of those aspects of our agreement are underway as well. So that's all we're trying to accomplish in this. It's not our goal for it to be broad or expansive in any way. It was a weird set of circumstances where someone applied for a permit. They were given it, whether they should or they should have not been given it. They acted upon it, and this would resolve the issues between the parties.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Miller?
Yeah, Mr. Heeman, thank you. So just a quick question. The adjacent lot is already out of not in legal conformance, right? So the landscaping and drainage you just referenced would have to be updated as a matter of right, no matter what, correct?
The existing lot's a pre-existing non-conforming lot. So unless they built upon the lot next door, they wouldn't have to bring it into conformance.
Pre-existing non-conforming with the down city, just not getting the name of that commission, right?
DDRC.
You got it. But not pre-existing with the ordinance that just says that surface lots in the city of Providence, no matter where they are, have to conform to certain landscaping and green to minimize the heat impact, the heat sink and drainage and stormwater flow and all that stuff. So the landscaping would be part of that no matter what.
So to my knowledge, there's been no violations issued for that property. Whether they could or they could not, I don't know. My understanding is that lot predates those changes. Otherwise, I'm sure that they would issue violations. But in any event, they don't have to, because as part of this, one of the requests the city made is, hey, well, what about that property? And I was able to get my client to agree to do that property as well. So, but that no violations have been issued, so I don't know the entire zoning history of that one particular parcel, other than we're going to make it conform now, so it won't have to get to that point.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay, thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Mr. Chair, I just want to state that we incorrectly accepted Exhibit 5B when the substitution was Exhibit 5A. So I just want to clarify that we're subbing 5A and accepting the sub A with the amendment. It is for 5A, not 5B. Thank you.
Oh, boy. Madam Clerk. Oh, dang it. Go ahead, Doug Arian. State your name and address for the record, please.
Grant Bulgarian, 20 Exeter Street. Is it possible to see the sub A? Thank you. It says the option on the sign-in sheets here, you're in favor or opposed. And so I was opposed to the original. Because I wanted to see a couple of amendments. And I want to commend Attorney Dinnerman for trying to work on one of those concerns that I have. The two concerns I have, number one, is that it seems like there's consensus that we only want this to ever apply to this one particular parking deck that used to exist. There are other parking decks in downtown Providence, and my understanding from Bob Azar is that the zoning ordinance doesn't make a distinction between parking deck and parking garage, and they just call it parking structure. And that's very troubling because we certainly don't want to lose any parking garages anywhere. We like structured parking. So maybe the zoning ordinance needs to have a little language inserted that makes a distinction between parking decks and parking structure and parking garages so that we can narrow this proposal even further. So that's on that's the one item. And then the second item is that I agree with what was suggested, that we need to put a time limit on this. We would all like to think that we're slowly emerging from Corona, although there's another variant out there that just seemed to have emerged last week. But I would suggest a reasonable time limit. 1 year might be considered too quick, too soon, but 3 years certainly ought to be reasonable for this to no longer apply and for movement activity development to occur. So that would be my dual suggestion and recommendation is one, get some language in there that limits it to parking deck, not parking garages, and get language in there so that there is a distinction made between deck and garage and not just sort of overwhelmingly included, encompassed in parking structure. And then number two, putting a time frame on it. So thank you very much. And I'll answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Grant.
I could answer. Thanks.
Madam Clerk, would you please read item number 6 into the record?
Item number 6 is a petition from Nicholas J. Heeman Esquire, Darrow Everett LLP, 1 Turk's Head Place, Suite 1200, Providence, Rhode Island, 02903, requesting a zone change for the property located on Assessors Plat 6, Lot 264, 635 Hope Street from R2 to RP, and there is Exhibit 6A.
Can I have a motion to accept as Exhibit 6A, please? Motion made by Councilman Costello, seconded by Councilman Harris. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Bob Azar.
All right, last one for this evening. This petition is for a house on Hope Street on the east side, and currently this house contains a chiropractor's office, which is used as a home occupation. That means in zoning parlance that the owner of the building is also the practitioner, and that is something that we allow by right for professional offices in residential zones. The petition here is that the building would continue to be used for a residence and for chiropractor's office, but my understanding is that the owner of this building doesn't intend to live in the building, but the use would remain the same, only that the owner, the practitioner would be commuting to the building rather than living in the building. That's not allowed under the current zoning of two-family residential. So the change proposed here is to residential professional, which is a district that does allow for professional offices and residential uses where the owner doesn't have to live on the premises. This area is designated in the comprehensive plan as low-density residential. And the plan describes this as an area intended for 1 to 2 family dwellings with small-scale commercial uses appropriate in some areas. So this proposed zone change would fit well within that designation. Given that, and given the fact that the property will be indistinguishable from the way it is now under this new zoning scheme, the City Plan Commission voted to recommend that you approve this zoning change. Thank you.
Councilor Miller.
It's so loud that way. So quickly, so if they lived in the home, would they be able to operate a business? Just out of curiosity, with the current zoning, if they lived in R2, would they be able to operate a chiropractor?
Yeah, the way it is today is if you live in a building in a residential zone, you're allowed to have your own professional practice out of that home.
And then RP, there's limited places in the city where that functions. Is Hope Street one of them?
Hope Street doesn't currently have, Hope Street in the vicinity actually of Waterman and Angel Street, there is some residential professional there. This is a little bit to the north of that. You're welcome.
Thank you, Bob. Saj. Thank you. Attorney Eamon. And just once again, please state your name and your position.
Nicholas Heeman for the applicant. This property has been owned by Dr. Broccoli, I think for nearly 30 years. He's operated his chiropractic practice there. He is slowing down his practice and looking to spend more time in Florida. So he has under contract to sell this property to a younger chiropractor who wants to use it in the same way and buying his practice. Originally, the issue came up because of the, it's not a big building, right? It's a residential structure, but it obviously has the equipment that they use. So he was getting a commercial loan to do that. They wouldn't issue the loan because of the residential use of the property. It's classified as a working from home. So he had to convert it to residential financing and then decided, well, you know what? Today I might want to live and work there, but as my family grows, as my life changes, I might not want to continue to do that. So we reached out to planning, Mr. Azar, how best could we go about this? We don't want to change it to a C1 or something along those lines. And RP seemed to be the best fit. There are some commercial uses. I believe there's a church right in the general abutting property. He's had a great relationship with his neighbors over the years. So there was no opposition at the CPC from anyone in the community. I don't believe anyone has signed up today. But again, more of a practical recognition of the historical use of the property in a manner that would allow some flexibility in the future.
Thank you, Counselor.
Thank you.
Brent Delgarian, again, state your name and your address for the record.
Brent Delgarian, 20 Exeter Street. This is my neighborhood. The church that is referenced is immediately adjacent, called the Church of the Redeemer. Not my church, but that was where my Boy Scout troop met. There's not another RP zoned parcel of land, let alone a stretch of land, within eyeball distance of this proposal. Bob Azar is accurate. The nearest one is College Hill. Got to go up Hope Street to Cypress Street, along Cypress Street to Doyle Ave, down Doyle Avenue to Olney Street where Hope High School is, along Hope Street to where Thayer Street commences, and then you continue along Thayer Street until you get to Angel and Waterman. This is inappropriate. When I was a kid growing up, it was mentioned that this gentleman has been there for 30 years. Well, when I was a kid growing up, he wasn't there because I'm older than 30 years. It's zoned R2. It's a single family home because it's slightly undersized. But if they bought a sliver of land from the church, and the church has a lot of land around it, it could be a 5,000 square foot lot, and it could be a two-family home. There's no excuse for, someone wants to continue the practice, then they live in that house. That's what home occupation is all about. RP is a relatively recent designation in our city zoning ordinance. It did not exist back when I was a kid growing up. I grew up under the 1951 zoning ordinance. It was, if you recall, it was a little green booklet. If you read it 2 or 3 times, you had it memorized. RP is a fairly recent designation, and it was for certain stretches along major corridors, thoroughfares in the city of Providence. And besides Angel and Waterman, Broadway also has an RP zone in it. And so this would be inappropriate and should remain the way it is. If this person wants to be home occupation, fine. If not, then somebody else can be home occupation. You can be home occupation anywhere, but you don't rezone property to accommodate somebody who may decide down the road, I want to move. The way housing prices are going now, whoever owns it is going to make a chunk of money. Unfortunately, the way housing prices are right now, we need to address that. That's another topic for another time. But this is not what should be this is not appropriate. This is not what should be done. So on item number 5, I agreed with council that they were working to make it very limited, very narrow. But on item number 6, I disagree that this should not be approved, that this is inappropriate. And I'll be happy to any questions you might ask. As I say, I'm very familiar with the neighborhood. If you continue going south along the side of Hope Street, what do you have? You have single-family homes. This whole stretch, both sides of Hope Street are primarily single and two-family homes. There's no RP at all whatsoever. And the one little entity that they point to, that they say, well, you see, because of this, therefore RP is appropriate, is across the street. There's a little bitty, used to be called Elgin Drug. There's a little pharmacy, and that continues to this day, which is great. But that's the only non-residential in that whole stretch of Hope Street. We don't count churches, we don't count religious institutions as non-conforming uses. They're allowed anywhere and everywhere. So the only non-conforming use is that one little building right across the street, which is nice and handy and convenient. There is no excuse for this building to be rezoned to anything other than what it is, which is R2, which is one level higher density-wise and traffic generation-wise than the way the building is currently utilized, which is R1, which is single family. So I thank you very much.
Thank you,
for your
Grant.
time.
At this time, we having no other business in front of this public hearing of the ordinance committee. Can I get a motion to close all matters of the public hearing? Motion made to close all matters by Councilwoman Castillo, seconded by Councilwoman Harris. All in favor? Opposed? Ayes have it. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Councilwoman Harris, seconded by Councilman Castillo. All in favor? Opposed? There'll be an ordinance meeting immediate following this meeting in room 305. Thank you.